everybody, and welcome to my first episode of Red Mic Discussions. What we're going to talk about right now is Cosmotology School and just the industry, choosing the right schools, and really understanding if this profession is for you. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about, those of you that's interested in cosmetology as a profession, is probably one of the toughest times right now to be in cosmetology, to be in any kind of self-care industry or wellness industry, because the wellness part of it really requires that self-to-person, I would say, connection, having that one-on-one feeling with people. And with everything that's going on with COVID and everything, a lot of people are lacking that. And I think that we're realizing the effects of it all across the world and with different industries, and especially within the beauty industry, because the beauty is so reliant on having that one-on-one contact with people. And if you take that equation away, you're taking away a large part of the business and a large part of the reason why people go there to begin with, or go to get their hair cut or their nails done or whatever the case may be. So it's a tough time. So I would say that it's more so than anything. But if you have a passion and you have a calling, that knows no boundaries. And so if you still feel called during this time, it's probably because it really is for you. One of the things I want to say is make sure that you really want to do this when you go into it. It's not a part-time thing. Dedicate yourself to it 100% full-time, because you are paying a lot of money just to do this. Cosmetology School, for those of you who don't know, is $20,000 or more. You're also paying for your equipment, you're paying for your kit, so you're going to get in debt right away. It's just as expensive as going to any other school or college or anything like that, so it requires a large amount of dedication. So if you are somebody that's wary, you don't quite know, it's a lot of money to spend just not to like it. But we're going to go into all of the different things and all the ups and downs, but that is my spiel about doing it for the right reasons. All right, everybody, so Cosmetology School. I always like to give you the short stuff up front, just so you know. Should you do it? That's a personal decision. I can't tell you if you should or if you shouldn't. Number two, where should you go? Again, that's a personal decision. I'm not going to tell you exactly where, but there's different places to go for different purposes. So you have to get clear, number one, about what it is that you want to do and why you're doing it, and where exactly do you want to go in this industry, because this industry can take you in so many different places, and you want to make sure that you're in your right environment that's going to support you and allow you to do that. So that is the short answer to my question. Is it good or is it bad? Again, that's something that's subjective, but one thing that I will say is that it does teach you how to deal with multiple different personalities. Not in one person, well, maybe sometimes in one person, but multiple different personalities in the room at one point. And that's something that as a working stylist that you're going to have to deal with, and you're going to have to acknowledge and be able to handle and manage. So it's definitely good training, regardless of if you decide to continue on in this profession or not. It really teaches you how to just deal with people to begin with. All right, so let's go into the basics, right? Let's talk about the choice of Cosmetology School and which ones you should go to. All right, so right off the top of my head, I'm going to say that the cosmetology schools are around. There's a couple of big wigs, and I say big wigs because they are backed by a big brand or a big name, and they're also can be found in multiple different states. So we have Sassoon, of course. That I believe in America is only in California, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it may have closed down recently, so just do your research on these schools when I tell you about them, because I'm not too sure exactly what it is, and I don't want to give out false information. But I know Sassoon was the Sassoon Academy was a school at one time. I know they do still offer advanced education and continuing classes in different states, but the actual cosmetology school for unlicensed stylists was only located in California at one point. Don't know if that's still true or not, but definitely research that and find out. Then you also have Aveda. Aveda could be found in multiple states as well. There's also the Paul Mitchell School. Paul Mitchell is found in multiple states as well. Paul Mitchell schools are franchised, so they can be owned by different people. And different people may own multiple schools, but it all falls under the same umbrella. You still get the same Paul Mitchell education, the same curriculum, everything like that. They are all trained on Paul Mitchell products. Really good school too. Another one is, I mentioned the Aveda, right? Yeah, I think I did mention the Aveda school. Aveda also exclusively use Aveda products, so you get definitely a lot of knowledge with them too. I know Aveda does offer esthetician school, and they also offer, I guess, a massage therapy school as well. Not in all states though. Definitely do your research and find out. The third big one I would say is, I feel like I'm missing somebody else. You have Aveda, Paul Mitchell, you have Sassoon. You definitely have Empire. Empire can be found in multiple states as well. They're not under a specific brand of things like Paul Mitchell and Aveda. Those, they are their own, they carry their own brand. Oh, there's also Toni and Guy. Toni and Guy can be found in a lot of different states as well. Of course, they use Toni and Guy, which is TG. If you ever seen the Bedhead line, that's Toni and that's from Toni and Guy. Copyright, and I think they also have another line too that I can't really think of off the top of my head. So those are the major schools that you'll find in multiple states, and then there's also, I guess, your local bigwigs that are just as, like, they're big within their region, but they're not as big. So one of those would be like a school like I went to, like a Rojo. So that's here in New York City. And that's another school that's big and very prestigious, and they have their own things. So I'm gonna go in now and tell you about all the different things about cosmetology school, right? When you're looking for a cosmetology school, one thing that you should know is that, number one, it is very expensive. Two, most of the time they offer different programs. You can either go join the day or you can go part-time, and sometimes they even allow evening and weekends. If you're going during the daytime, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to do anything else. So it's almost like college. You have to dedicate yourself to it 100%. People do try to work, but I'm going to tell you right now that it takes a lot out of you, because most cosmetology schools require you to be there for a certain amount of hours. So you're building up hours, and the hours is required by the state. Each state is different. In New York State, I know it was 1,000 hours. I believe in Georgia it was 1,500, and I know here in New Jersey it's 1,200 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I may be off on this, okay? This is just my discussion by me talking what I know off the top of my head, but definitely verify and check. But I believe that those were the hours. So each state have different hours requirements, and that means that you have to be in there practicing certain things, certain amount of time spent in theory, certain amount of time spent on practical, which is what you do on the floor, actually working on clients. So there's not any time really where it's like college, where you have one class and then you have a whole big period in between, or you may only have 3 classes for the day and then you're done. It's definitely not like that. You're in there from 9 to 5 like a regular job, and you're in there 5 days a week. So that's why I say it can be very taxing and very tiring on the body to even attend school like that if you're not 100% serious about what you're doing. Just realize what you're giving up right off the bat, and that is your time because you're dedicating it to learning this craft and learning it in a way that is going to allow you to succeed. So get clear about what it is that you want. Get clear about doing that. If you're just looking for something to do and you don't want to go to college yet, and you're just going to sit there and you're not really passionate about it, it's going to wear you out really quickly. And that's the honest truth. I've seen it happen so many times to so many different people. So really get clear. Get clear about what it is that you want to do, and get clear about what you're dedicating your time to, because it can definitely be taxing. But it can also be a very good and fun learning experience for you, getting to do multiple things. So let me talk to you about the different types of school philosophies, right? So there's some feel-good schools that are out there. I would say Paul Mitchell is one of those. They definitely have a lot of programs and different things. They're big on charity. They're big on sustainability as well, using all of their products, product knowledge. So you'll definitely know all about Paul Mitchell products and tools and color and all of that once you go. Depending on what school you go to, it is run by different people, so different people have different approach to how they want to run their school, but for the most part the curriculum stays the same. You'll do things like skills and drills, and that's kind of like yoga with your scissors and your comb to describe it. And it may seem weird at first. It took me a good 5 years to really understand that what I was learning there was really something that was helpful to me as I moved through my profession. And I don't know if they still do it, but the skills and drills will definitely allow you to understand that this can be very taxing on your body, and by exercising and stretching and yoga in general, it's just going to help you to become a better stylist. And it's not that they're teaching you yoga, I'm just saying that yoga in general, it helps you to be a better stylist, because you have to stretch muscles and tendons and things in your wrist and your hands that are being used repetitively, and that's one of those things that you have to kind of keep in mind. So you almost have to train for this like you're becoming a fighter. And you're going into the ring, because this profession will definitely wear on your body, your shoulders, your head, your neck, your feet, your knees, everything. So it's good to be in good shape when you do that. And I know that's one of the things that I think Paul Mitchell kind of stresses, is just overall mind, body, spirit connection, those kind of things. It's very much like a high school, so you have little projects, you have different things that you do. And it's more like if you want a second high school experience, I think Paul Mitchell kind of like fits that bill. They do develop a sense of community, and they do support, and they have alumni that come, and it's very good. Obviously, you could tell that I went to a Paul Mitchell school, so that's how I can talk about it. And perhaps I'll just do a separate spiel on just Paul Mitchell, just so you can get an idea of what that was all about, what that experience was. Aveda is a natural line, definitely one of those schools that teaches you mind-body wellness as well. They focus on the body as a whole, so I know they do the massages, they do skincare, they do a lot of, I think they do makeup applications and everything as well. I can't speak too directly on it because I've never been to a Aveda school, but the people that I've known that have attended Aveda school have told me this. And when I was looking and I was searching, that was one of the things that I was looking into, and it was really close between the Aveda and the Paul Mitchell. And I ended up going to Paul Mitchell school. I'm not exactly sure why I chose Paul Mitchell over the Aveda school. That would be a good question for me to like kind of look back and figure out what my reasoning was behind it. But whatever the reason was, I chose the Paul Mitchell school instead. And it was a good choice. I wouldn't say that it was a bad choice. It definitely was a good choice for me at that time. So you also have Tony and Guy. I'm not too sure about Tony and Guy schools. Known people who went to them, and it seems like they're pretty good as well. I can't speak too much on that. There's the Sassoon school. Definitely was old school precision cutting. Definitely a little bit stricter. I've known the people that have went there and they're amazing cutters. But I don't know the overall environment of the rest of the school. The last one, I said, which is one here locally, which is Arrojo, I went there as well. Yes, I went to 2 schools, 3 really if you count them all, but two different names, I would say. Arrojo is definitely one of those schools that I think I'm going to do a separate video on that. So maybe I'll give you 2 videos. I'll give you a video about my Paul Mitchell experience, and I'll give you a video about my Arrojo experience. Both of them are drastically different because both of them occurred at different points of my life. Paul Mitchell was the first school that I went to, so I went in there not knowing anything. Arojo was one of the other schools that I went to, and I went there with the foundations that I had at Paul Mitchell. So my experience the second time around, or third, depending on how you want to look at it, was definitely different. My experience was different because my foundation had already been set. And from there, I was able to work and acquire different set of skills. So those are the three school choices majorly that you'll have. Oh, and Empire is pretty much, I've known a lot of people that went to Empire. I've heard mixed reviews about it. I don't want to speak on it because I didn't go, so I don't know. But you'll definitely find that there a lot too. So let's get into some of the things that are expected and required and what you'll experience going into one of these schools. All right, so let's talk about the good, right? Let's always start on a positive note. The good thing about going to cosmetology school, you get to learn a lot. Your instructors are going to be with you for a while. You'll still remember some of the things that they say to this day. And for the most part, most of your instructors are working professionals, and they allow you to feel really secure. And I think they really love what they're doing. They really love teaching, and they really get a kick out of it. I've never experienced an educator that just did not want to be there. I think they really get satisfaction from being able to pass on their skills. So one of the things that I can say is that your instructors are definitely going to be there for you. They're going to cheer you on, and they're going to want to see you succeed because your success is their success too. And for the most part, you'll find a lot of the instructors are like that. I have never encountered an instructor that did not have that spirit in them. Not to say that there aren't any that might give you a different idea, but I'm just telling you my experience. That's mostly why people go into that, and that's mostly what you see when you get in there is people excited to be where they're at. One of the things that I can say also is that you develop some friendships, some close friendships. I am still in contact with people that I was in cosmetology school with to this day that I would hang out with. So it's nice to see each other's careers grow and develop and see what they do with themselves and what they do with this profession. So the contacts and connections that you make during that time is really great. It's a great place for you to make mistakes. For you to really learn theory, for you to find yourself, for you to understand how to interact with people during good times and difficult times. And it's a time where you really get to discover, I guess, who you are as a person and really discover your craft and what you can bring to the table, because there's multiple different hairstylists and cosmetologists out there, and they all do something a little bit different. There's one reason why this one person goes to this person as opposed to somebody else. So it's something for everybody. So when you go in there, don't feel intimidated. It is one of those things that just takes a little bit getting used to, but once you start learning and once you start growing, it really is an amazing experience. It'll teach you to just be a different person. You definitely will not come out of there being the same person that you were when you went in. If you're shy, if you're quiet or whatever, working with clients and different things like that, you'll definitely develop those skills towards the end of your experience. But all that glitters is not gold. So of course, let's get into some of the negative things that can happen at school. One of the biggest things that I would say is when I went to cosmetology school, I really understood the female teenage experience. And what I mean by that, and some of y'all probably laughing because you know exactly what I mean by that, is that being in a space that's predominantly female, with some people that are coming out of school or coming out of high school and just getting to learn and understand themselves, there is the occasional cattiness and everything that can go on all around you. And that's just, it just happens. It's nothing that's good or bad or negative. It's just something that happens, and sometimes the environment can be really, really toxic. and it can feel like you don't want to be there. And especially if you are a person of a certain age, meaning, like you've experienced life and you have a certain level of maturity, it can feel like it can be really, really trying on your nerves, going through this, because you just want to go there, you just want to do what you got to do, and you're there because you want to be there and you understand why it's there. But there's some people that are there to kind of discover themselves, and in discovering themselves, they kind of shift the mood, and the progression of the entire class, and sometimes you'll have to deal with that. And I think in those times it can be really tough, and it can be really trying, because it causes you to question why you're there and what you're there for. But one of those things that I would have to say, and I'd have to remind you all, that when you are going through and you're experiencing these times, is just to remember why you're there. And you're there to get your education, and make sure that nobody ruins it for you. Make sure that you get what it is that you want. And if there's something that's not being taught or they're not being shown, then you ask and you speak up and you ask the questions. And I guarantee you, more like 9 times out of 10, if you come to an instructor and you ask them to show you something that's not really a part of the curriculum or not being taught, or something that you want to learn, they'll find a way to teach it to you, even if they pull you aside and teach it to you. But remember, this is your education, and you're the one paying all this money for it. So if there's something that you're not getting, you have to speak up about it. If you are in a school and you want to learn about textured hair and they're not teaching you textured hair, you bring yourself a textured mannequin and say, I want to learn how to do a silk press on this, teach me. Or I want to learn how to define these curls, teach me. Or I want to know what to do. And the same way that you are, as a student, are challenged by your instructors, is the same way that you as a student can challenge your instructors. You can stretch them, you can force them to grow and be a better hairstylist. And from that level of community, you all can build off each other, and you can have amazing and an awesome class. Now, I say this not to say it disrespectfully. Don't be disrespectful about it, because once you are, nobody's going to want to help you. But really inquire with an inquiring mind and with a learner's heart to really obtain this knowledge. And they may tell you they can't do it now because there is certain requirements that's required by, the state law and the state board and all that kind of stuff that they have to go through. And maybe theory might not be that time, but sometimes ask them if they could just carve out 10 or 15 minutes just to take questions about, things that you have questions about. Wigs or I know wigs are a really big thing right now too. Wigs or fantasy colors, or bleaching and toning, or balayage, or some of these more trendy topics that are happening right now in real time. Because the reality of the fact is that Milady Cosmetology book has not changed in years. They've added stuff to it over the time, but really, it's still, some of the stuff are still outdated. But it's not really that it's outdated, it's more so that it's foundational and it's just basic. And right now you're in a state where you're learning the foundations and the basics, but you're also living in real time where more advanced stuff are happening, and they're happening at a rate that you're not able to. A lot of the cosmetology schools and the whole cosmetology, curriculum is not able to keep up with, especially with, you have people with YouTube channels like me who are telling you different things, and you're seeing all these multiple tutorials and different things, and it gets you excited, which is great. Just remember that there's just some foundational things that you have to learn, and if you want certain things in your education, to make sure that you advocate for yourself and you advocate for your education, because you are the ones paying all the money and you're the ones that's making this school run. So advocate, and advocate strongly, advocate respectfully, and advocate with a purpose, advocate with a solution in mind, not just bringing up problems and complaining about things, because that drives down the whole class, as it really does. What other tips do I have for you? Man, this is like a trip down memory lane. Um, I feel like such a old soul talking about cosmetology school like it happened 20, 30 years ago. But I mean, it really seems like it does. It feels like it's forever when you're there. It does. It feels like you're in school forever. I went to college, I went all of that. I'll tell you, the cosmetology school was a lot tougher than that. I felt like I was there the entire time and it felt like it never was going to end. But it does. It does. And it's actually faster than you think it is. It really is. It just never feels that way when you're doing it. There's going to be times where you feel worn out. There's going to be times where you feel tough. There's going to be times where you feel like giving up. But in those times, I would tell you to rewind this video, really, and rewind it and listen to it again. and let these be words of encouragement that you're doing this profession because you're called to. You're doing this profession because you have it in you, you have the spirit in you to do it. Not everybody can. And do it your way, you know. Not any way anybody else expects you to do it. Just do it in the way that's comfortable for you. Choose a school that's going to allow you to do that. Ask the right questions. And never give up on yourself. And I know those things sound really, really cliche, but to give you see, now I'm all like jumbled up with my words. But to give you a little bit of perspective, right? I started cosmetology school, I think in 2015, right? I started in Atlanta at the Paul Mitchell School, and then I ended up coming back up north to New York, and I ended up trying to continue my Paul Mitchell education in another Paul Mitchell school in New Jersey, and things happened where it was a lot of money for me to travel. I was crossing bridges and paying toll and getting up really, really early in the morning, trying to get there, and then rushing in the afternoon to get back home. Sometimes it'll take me hours and hours to get home. Same thing when I was in Atlanta. It took me like a good 40-minute drive each way. And then it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I needed to work because New York is expensive. And I'm from New York. Like, that's exactly where I'm from. I was just in Georgia temporarily, but I'm from New York, so just living there costs a lot, and I had to just like make that hard decision and kind of defer my dream, not delay it, not deny it, I should say, but defer it, defer my dream a little bit, go back to work. And during work the whole time, I was just trying to figure out, okay, how I'm going to get back to this. And I was still doing hair. I was still practicing. I was still doing all the things I had to do. And then an opportunity opened up where I was able to go to Arojo and still maintain my job. And I ended up going to Arojo and continuing my education there. And I barely graduated about a year ago, I think. Yeah, a year ago today. I'm just trying to remember the time frame, right? So we go back to 2015, I believe it was. Yeah, 2015. I think it was around 2015. So from 2015 all the way to 2021, right? That's how long it took for me to finish. And just because life happens, and I never gave up, and I'm doing it now. And I'm going 100% at it. So when it's in you, when your calling is there, when your passion is there, you'll always find a way to do what it is that you want to do, and you won't let anybody stop you from doing that. And I think that that's one of those things that you just have to keep in mind whenever you go through this industry. This industry is the beauty industry, but we all know that it's not all beautiful. Some of it is really ugly, and we just make it look pretty. But I think that it's important to have these discussions and let people know that behind the beauty, it's not all beautiful. And so we have to do things that allow ourselves and allow our spirits to really soar. And part of that is just understanding your purpose and doing what you're called to do, making the right choices, and advocating for yourself. And I think if you keep those things in mind, you'll have a great time at Cosmotology School. Until then, until our next discussion, bye.